We go. And hitting the live button. And we are live today, our last team call here before the Christmas holidays. And welcome everyone to our Saturday call. And you know, it's so fun to come on here just a little bit early each time because you can just feel the family. Everybody it's so exciting just to hear people saying welcome and Merry Christmas, and you can just feel that family. And I know our guest today, he does. He feels like family to me, you know, when you're on that same mission doing things. And he is absolutely incredible and has been such a blessing year after year after year to our ZInzino family, not just in North America, but the entire global ZInzino. So let's welcome on here a very special Merry Christmas welcome to our President of North American Operations, Mr. Art Jonak. Hello, Art.
Hi, Carla. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. In the Christmas spirit, got packages. I think I've got everything wrapped now. It's just, you know, the special time of year. And I think that's kind of one of the special things I think about when I'm in this season is the great family feeling that we have here in ZInzino. Such a blessing.
It is. And I think you're ahead of most of us. If you're all shopped up and everything's ready, that's very Carla of you to be there. I wish I was where you are right now. But it is about the love, the family, the friends, the friendships, the recollection, our faith, you know, just slowing down now to see what an amazing life we have, right? Like we are all very blessed, I would say, for those of us watching here. And so, Carla, thank you for being such a beacon of turning hope into, you know, into faith and into belief, right, along the way, and being here every Saturday to bring back to the, you know, for those of us that may be off course once in a while and say, oh, I better get on that call on Saturday. And then that brings you back on course, it backs you back on focus on what the mission is for yourself, for your family, for your community. I see a lot of people right now, they're looking at this balanced concept of ZInzino, and yes, it's about themselves, and yes, it's about their family, but it's also about their communities, whatever that community looks like, their neighborhood, their specific group of people that they hang out with, or even larger than that. Community is large, and we're going to talk about that here today, because I think in the spirit of the holidays, and if you're celebrating Christmas or you know, Hanukkah, or you know, that's the moment of time for you here, and if not, then you are appreciating the camaraderie of that togetherness moment. And so I thought today we would talk about that mission. You know, what is it that we're really trying to accomplish? Can we put a dent in the universe? So the first part of this will be a little bit of slides. It's only about 10, Carla. And then when I get to the part, I'll say, let's take it off the slides, right? Let's have a little bit of a dialogue. But if you've been wondering, how do you tell the ZInzino story in a short, concise way? If you've been wondering, is it going to get boring telling the story in a short, concise way over and over and over? And the answer is yes, it will. But if you're part of a bigger mission, if you understand why it is that we're doing what we're doing, the monotony of it is actually the beauty of it. The monotony of it is what makes it simple. The monotony of it is also what makes it so effective in us accomplishing that mission. And I've seen a lot of people this year go from being focused as not as a mercenary specifically, but the concept of a mercenary, which is, hey, I need to make money, which is really important. There's, you know, like money buys us options. Money is really important. But there's also a shift to the missionary side to say, hey, we're trying to accomplish something bigger than ourselves, bigger than me, bigger than Carla, bigger than the amazing amount of people on this call. Like, what is that big thing that we're trying to accomplish? And typically when there's a purpose, when there's a mission, when there's a meaning, that's what pulls us through the days where it feels that you're down, or the day that you feel this is getting monotonous, or the day that it feels whatever, fill in the blank. In addition to the many, many days that you feel super excited because you get that story, that testimonial that comes in from the customer, that story that comes in from a partner that meets a new rank, right? The story of your community now all of a sudden turning to you after there are enough stories inside of your community where those testimonials, those product stories start to take an effect. And it's not one or two people in your community, but it's 20, 30, 40, 50 people in your community. And all of a sudden your community says, oh my gosh, Carla, Ranjana, Stefan, thank you for bringing this concept to our community. At first, we didn't understand it. At first, we didn't get it. At first, we thought you were a crazy person coming in here talking about this. But now we get it. Now we're seeing the impact of what it's having on our community. And you're going to be that example. You're going to be that person that they're going to look to and say, you are the catalyst. You are the person who came in here where your belief was stronger than our doubt, where your conviction was stronger that test-based nutrition is the way to go, where your conviction was strong about this one question that we're going to cover here today that was so important that you adamantly told us about it over and over and over again in a kind, gentle way until we started to understand it, until we started to see the results. And that's where we are right now. 2024 is going to be an incredible year. 2023, by every stretch of the imagination, was a super successful year for ZInzino, for the partners, for the leaders, for the concept that we're trying to do. On my birthday, July 1st, we went past 1 million tests. Are you kidding me? Like, that's incredible. We're growing again. It's going to end up being probably 20, 25% growth for this year. Just amazing growth during difficult times. And we're looking for those missionaries. Who are, are you going to be the person that goes into your community and takes something that's obscure and makes it popularized? And in that process, you will have people that'll come to you and say, thank you. And it's not going to be immediate. It's going to take a little while sometimes. But after a year, 2 years, when you've moved the dial on their health significantly, you're going to get recognized. You might even get an award. You might even have a banquet in your name. That's how significant I think what we do, Carla, is. So let's go to sharing mode here, and we'll start off with a little bit of content. Right. So I'm going to click on share content here. Perfect. Thank you, Carla. All right. So we see here the topic for today is the critical question. So what is the critical question? And I'm going to be asking 2 critical questions today. But the first one is going to be something that I've been working with a guy named Frank Kimbrough. And Frank is part of the ZInzino family. He's been with us a little bit over a month. He just crossed 18. He's approaching some pretty amazing people, attracting his community. And he's very driven to help his community get into balance. He had a great testimonial with his mom. Then he started to see the test results of people in his community. And even though we're averaging 25-1 horrible, dangerous test results in the United States, his community was even higher. And he said this during one of our Zooms, and we've done a number of Zooms together. He said, hey, when you're talking to people, if they think you're coming to them about the money, they will miss the mission. And sometimes if they miss the mission, you don't get a second chance to teach them about the mission. So we have to have this balance and say, okay, if somebody's approaching you in the conversation that you're having, and they're talking about, I need to make money. I've got 2-3 jobs, or I need to shift zip codes. Of course, talk about the money. But in an everyday conversation, it may be even more important to paint a picture of what is the problem that we're solving. There has to be a problem that we're solving. And is the problem big enough, significant enough that it's going to get people's attention? And then is it big enough of a problem later, once they see what the problem is, what it is that we're solving, what it is that we're doing that's so unique in the marketplace, the stories that come with how we solve the problem when the people's problems are solved, then they can say, okay, I get it. I see there's a need. I see there's a problem. And I hear there's some money to be made in the process if I help spread the word, if I help become a missionary on this mission. So I love what Frank said. And here's the first step that I would suggest is I was up in Minneapolis, Carla, a couple of months ago, and I talked about this concept called passive prospecting versus active prospecting. And I remember Arlo came to me at the end, and we would be asking, hey, what's one of your takeaways? And Arlo was like, man, that idea of passive prospecting versus active prospecting, that really struck a chord with me. And what it means is that if we want to build a big business in 2024, maybe you already have a big one and you want to go double it or grow it by 50%, then we're going to have to tap into what's called active prospecting. And to give you the difference between the two, passive prospecting is that Carla and I are having a conversation over the holiday season or over coffee or whatever that looks like. And during that conversation, I'm just deep down hoping that she brings up two things. One, she might say something, hey, Art, I've been really thinking about getting into better health, better fitness, better shape, better whatever it is. And the moment she brings that up, I have my opening. Finally, Carla brought up health, right? And I can tell her about the balance concept, and I can go in there and I can approach her about it. Or somewhere in that conversation, Carla says, I've been working 2 jobs and I need to get ahead financially faster. I need to be able to help with the grandkids. I want to do that. And I'm sitting there going, wow, finally in our conversation, she's opened up about something to do with finances so that I can approach her about the opportunity with ZInzino. That's passive prospecting, where we're in conversations, we're in dialogue with people, we're creating know, like, and trust. We're in that mode and we're waiting for them to bring up health or wealth. Active prospecting is different. Active prospecting says that I'm going to be in a conversation with Carla, and in that conversation, I'm going to actively and gently steer the conversation into something around health. I'm going to actively push that conversation in there in a nice, gentle way so that the conversation is about health. Or I'm going to actively push the conversation so that the conversation somewhere is about creating an extra income, creating a break the zero income. So I'm actively prospecting. I'm actively looking for people. I'm actively saying who's the center of influence at this holiday party. I'm actively seeking out people who already have success, people who are a center of influence in their community. I'm actively seeking out people who are already mindful of their health. I'm actively seeking out people who are showing entrepreneurial tendencies already. See, passive prospecting is I'm going to run into somebody once in a while. And when I run into them once in a while, I hope that in that conversation, they bring up health or they bring up the idea of needing to make some extra income. Active prospecting means, hey, we're out there actively looking for qualified partners for our business. Active prospecting means we're out there actively looking for people who want to change their health in a positive way. Active prospecting means that when we're in that conversation with them, we're steering the conversation actively towards health or extra income or a business or an entrepreneur thing. So Carla, does that make sense as I'm covering that here? Because I'm excited what we're going to talk about next, but we have to cover this part first.
Absolutely. Makes so much sense. I think everybody's got it, Art. I think that sinks in.
Okay, good. Because I think in 2024, we have to turn that dial. We have to turn that dial and be loud, as Hilda Sal has been saying. We've got to get loud. The pieces of the puzzle are in place. The Lego blocks are in place. Carla, you've seen it over the last 3.5, 4 years. The companies ZInzino has just become better and better and better in so many parts, right? From the IT side to the website to the third-party tools to the product to all of it. It's just getting better. And it's kind of like an iPhone. If I'm holding up an iPhone, if I have an iPhone 14 and I upgrade to an iPhone 15, I may not notice much of a difference. But if I had an iPhone 10 and I'm upgrading to an iPhone 15, there's a world of difference, right? And so ZInzino is in a place now where 2024 is going to be a massive year if we actively prospect. And in North America, in the United States and Canada, we're going to take things to a whole nother level. The United States is now in a position where we can onboard 500 or 1,000 partners a month. And we can do that, and we're ready for that. And it's coming. So to set this up, there's something that I like to share, and I've been sharing for 15 years, and that is this. As I do thinking, as we work on projects, I say if we ask the wrong question, the answer doesn't matter. If we ask the wrong question, the answer doesn't matter. So answers are important, but the questions that we're asking maybe are even more important. So if we ask the question, the wrong answer doesn't matter. The answer doesn't matter. And in the United States, and I see Dave Ives on here, I'm assuming this is also true in the United Kingdom. Pretty much everywhere I've traveled in the world, I was in Turkey for 2 weeks. When we're in conversation, keep in the back of your mind that in that initial conversation, in that initial, hey, we're steering the conversation, actively prospecting the conversation into health or into creating an extra income or being an entrepreneur, there are two things that I've noticed over the hundreds of Zoom calls and presentations that I did this year, and it literally is hundreds. I noticed that the people who were talking to the candidates, as candidates to become customers or candidates to become partners, there's two things they want. One, they want to learn. People are actively looking to learn something. They're happy to learn something. They don't want you to preach to them. They want you to educate. They want to learn. And number two, at the same time, it's kind of like this pendulum, right? These counterweight. They want to learn, but they also want you to get to the point, right? Don't take forever to teach what it is that you want to teach them. Don't take forever to get across the thing that you learned that they might find interesting as well. So it's a balancing act, Carla, right? They want to learn, but they don't want to be preached to, right? And at the same time, they want you to get to the point. And Carla, you've done a lot of presentations this year. You've done a lot of Zoom calls. You know that feeling when maybe we're going too long in the learning part, right? And they're going, come on, get to the point. So how do we balance those two things? So understand that most people you talk to are excited to learn something new. They want to have somebody teach them something, but they don't want it to be in a way where it's, hey, Carla, I'm such an expert and I know a whole lot of stuff that you don't know. So let me tell you what I know and you don't, you idiot, right? That's not the approach. The approach isn't, hey, Carla, do you know what an omega-6 is? Like the moment I say that to Carla, Carla has to be on the defensive. She's going to say, yeah, of course I know what an omega-6 is, even if she doesn't. As opposed to saying, hey, Carla, you know, and the conversation now is about getting healthier. Say, Carla, there's something that I learned this year that, man, I just didn't know about it. And then once I knew it, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It changed a lot of things about my health. And it's around a concept, and then you can talk. Do you see the difference between me preaching to Carla versus saying, I learned something that I didn't know, which for every single person on this Zoom, you can say that because there's certainly some things that you learned from Dr. Paul or somewhere that you didn't know before. And when we say it in that way, they're thinking, hey, you learned something. You were open to learning something. What did you learn? So they're leaning in, right? So they want to learn, but they want to learn from somebody who's sharing it in a friendly way, in a non-condescending way, in a non-show-off, ego-centered way, right? And they want you to get to the point. So here's the way to talk about the balance concept that I found that works really, really well. And then I'm going to show the slide here, but before I show the slide, let me take it off the slide, Carla, and let me just show what it looks like in person. So let's remove the slides for a moment, just have me on the screen, and I'll tell you what the story sounds like. So if I'm sitting in a conversation with you, and Carla and I are here chatting, and we're getting to the point where I want to explain this idea of the balance test and the balance oil, right? So I want to steer the conversation, not that I want to convince them, coerce and manipulate them to become a customer, because if I convince them, coerce them, manipulate them against their will to become a customer, they're not going to take the balance shot every day, right? They need to want to take this shot every day, because you're not going to be in the kitchen with them every day saying, hey, Carla, don't forget to take your balance shot. Hey, Carla, make sure you take your shot. You can't be there every day. So we have to, in a way, educate them so that they internally want to take that shot every day, so that they internally recognize, wow, taking that shot every day is one of the most important things if not the most important thing I can do for my health every single day. So how do we do that? So here's how I do it on a Zoom in person. So number one, I hold up my fist like this, right? And in that fist, I'm going to say, imagine Carla, and Carla, you and I can role play here if we want to. Say, this is an omega-6, okay? And an omega-6, I didn't really understand what an omega-6 was. So notice that there's a difference between me saying, Carla, do you know what an omega-6 is? Obviously, every idiot knows what an omega-6 is, because maybe you've given this presentation 50 times, right? So if you're in ZInzino, what an omega-6 is easy to understand. But for the new person, for the person you're talking to for the first time that's in the middle of Christmas shopping, holiday shopping, and they've got family coming in, they don't have time to learn that. So I say, here's what I learned. An omega-6 is what's called an essential fatty acid. Okay, now that sounds very complicated. It's EFA for short. And there are two things that I learned about this. One is it's essential. What that means, Carla, is that your body has to have it. If you don't have an omega-6, you die. Now, I know that sounds really dramatic, but that's the reality. That's why it's called an essential fatty acid. It's essential. And number two, your body doesn't make it, right? Your body doesn't create omega-6s. So we have to get it from our nutrition. We have to get it from what we eat, right? So be it the food that we eat or a supplement. Very simple. So Carla, very simple, right? One, essential. Two, our bodies don't make it.
Absolutely.
And then number three, this essential fatty acid is what's considered an inflammatory essential fatty acid. Inflammation, it helps create inflammation. Now, here's also what I learned, is that we don't want to eliminate these, even though we know inflammation is unhealthy, because the simple example that I learned was if you cut your finger and you're bleeding, if you don't have omega-6s, the inflammatory omega-6s, you don't stop bleeding and you're probably going to bleed to death. So they're super important. We're not there to eliminate them. They have a very specific function in our bodies. Now, on this other hand here, I'm going to talk about something called an omega-3, right? And an omega-3. So an omega-3 is also an essential fatty acid, EFA. Now notice I'm repeating what I said here. Why? Because their prospect is hearing this, the candidate is hearing this for the first time. Just because we said it once doesn't mean that they remember it. So let's say it a second time. An omega-3 is an essential fatty acid. What that means is, number one, is essential, right? Essential means, this is why we call this, because it's short for essential. Essential means that your body has to have it. Without it, you die. Number two, the omega-3 is also not created by your body, so you have to get it from your diet. You have to get it from the food that you eat or from the supplements that you take, just like the omega-6. Here's the difference between the omega-6 and omega-3. Remember, omega-6 is an inflammatory essential fatty acid, and omega-3 is an anti-inflammatory essential fatty acid. And together, they work synergistically in your body. They're both super important. And that is the foundation, right? As you're talking to your candidate, just explain it that way. We don't have to go too much deeper. Remember, they want to learn, but they also want you to get to the point. They want you to get to the point. So number one, this is an omega-3. Omega-3s are an essential fatty acid. Essential means your body has to have it. Without it, you die. Number two, your body doesn't make it, right? And an omega-3 is, well, in this case, I'm just going to say omega-6. This is an inflammatory essential fatty acid. And an omega-3 is essential. Your body has to have it. Without it, you die. Number two, your body doesn't make it, so you've got to eat it somehow. And number three, this is an anti-inflammatory. And here's the part that really opened my eyes for me, my family, my community, for people that I talk to, is that there's a company that does a test called a balance test. And the balance test basically gives you a lot of details on your essential fatty acids. It's the most comprehensive test on your essential fatty acids in the world that you can take from home. And one of those tests, one of the results that it gives you is something called your omega balance ratio. And here's the reality, is that ideally for every one of these anti-inflammatory omega-3s, we want to have no more than 1, 2, or 3 omega-6 that are inflammatory. So For every one omega-3 that's anti-inflammatory, you don't want to have any more than 3 omega-6s that are inflammatory, right? That's the ratio. That's where we want, because that's healthy. And the sad part is, after 1 million tests, in Europe, the average score on the index is for every 1 anti-inflammatory omega-3, the average person has 15, Carla, 15 inflammatory omega-6s. 1 to 15 instead of 1 to 3 or 1 to 2. And that's very dangerous. And most people are walking around in that danger zone. The reality is, Carla, 97% of people who take this test find out that they're in the danger zone. They fail the test. But it gets worse. For those of us here in North America and the United States, Mexico, the average score on this balance test, when people take it, is for every 1 anti-inflammatory omega-3, the average person in the United States, Mexico, has 25 inflammatory omega-6s. 1 to 25, Carla, that is extremely dangerous. It's one of the most dangerous silent things that's happening inside your body right now. And many of them are already seeing the results of that. They're seeing what's happening. They're experiencing the negative results in their health because they're so out of balance. They have so many omega-6s, inflammatories versus omega-3s. And the ones that don't, the reality is they will. It's not if, it's when. If you continue to stay in that danger zone, if you continue to stay in that state, problems either are already there, maybe they're visible, maybe they're not, and if not, they're coming. And Carla, that's how we educate, right? Like, that's straightforward. So we turn the slides back on. That way people can take a screenshot, right? So I'm going to do that right now. So if we ask the wrong question, the answer doesn't matter. People want to learn. They want you to get to the point. Here are the things to remember. If you're talking in a conversation, mention omega-6s, put up one fist, say these 3 things, right? Essential, body doesn't make it, it's inflammatory. Tell the story of cutting your finger. And if you don't have omega-6s, you bleed to death. So the goal isn't to eliminate all omega-6s. They're critical. Omega-3s is like the water, right? So if you notice here, I've got the fire that inflamed, because fire typically is the idea of inflammation. Water would be the anti-inflammation. Why do firemen and women put, water on fire? Omega-3s, they're essential. Your body doesn't make them, just like the omega-6s, but they're the anti-inflammatories. And the challenge is that with this test, because we're going to test, not guess, what we're finding is that all over the world, people have far too many omega-6s compared to omega-3s. You don't want to be in a ratio that's higher than 3 to 1. For every 1 anti-inflammatory omega-3, you don't want to have any more than 3 inflammatory omega-6s. And notice I'm not making any claims here about inflammation. I'm simply educating on what an omega-6 is. It's inflammatory. What an omega-3 is, it's anti-inflammatory. And clearly, if you have too many of these and not enough of these, they can make the jump as to what's happening inside of their body, right? So, Carla, if I explain this directly without pausing to explain why I'm saying what I'm saying, I can say this in about 3 minutes, all of it. 3 minutes is getting to the point. And at the same time, we're communicating in a way that's educational, that if they already know all this, great, it's a reminder. But most people don't. They haven't heard it in such a simple way. And once they get it, it's hard to get out of their head. It's hard to stop thinking about it. So the critical question, remember I said, if you ask the wrong question, the answer doesn't matter. So science up until this point has basically said, hey, we know that fish oils, cod liver oil, whatever that may be, are important. And the scientists in the 70s, they basically recognized that the food that we're eating wasn't providing us with enough omegas, and we have to eat them. The body doesn't make it. So they started to take fish oil out of fish. And the fish oil, where did it come from? The algae has polyphenols and omegas in it. The fish eats the algae. The fish then had the polyphenols and the omegas in it. Then the scientists directionally were correct, and they said, oh, let's take the fish oil out and use it as a supplement to make up for the bad and growing worse diet that people are consuming. And so they started to give all of us fish oil and cod liver oil. So directionally, that was the correct thing to do. But they made a mistake. They left out one part. Instead of taking the polyphenols along with the omegas, they took mostly the omegas, the fish oil, and they took very little of the polyphenols. And so while people were doing the right thing, and my mom giving me cod liver oil every day against, my nature, because I didn't want to take it, it didn't taste great, not like the balance oil that tastes amazing. She did the right thing. She knew she was doing the right thing, but it didn't get us into balance. The scientists didn't have this test. They didn't have the science. They didn't understand that the wrong question is how many milliliters of fish oil you should take, or how many DHAs or EPAs you should have. But the right question is what you're doing, is the food that you're eating, are the supplements that you're taking, are they getting you into a proper omega balance? 3-to-1. If you're not in 3-to-1, you're in the danger zone. It's as simple as that. And this is the urgency that we need to have when we talk to people, when we talk to people in our community, is just recognize that yes, obesity is dangerous. And yes, there are other things that are dangerous. But having too many omega-6s in every one of your trillion cells compared to omega-3s is one of the most silent, dangerous things that's happening out there right now. And the scientists were right, but we're here to right one wrong. And the wrong was they didn't include the polyphenols. They didn't have a great proprietary blend that after 120 days gets you near or back into balance. And then all you have to do for the rest of your life is take one shot a day. It takes 1 second, a 1 second balance shot. You can take it directly. Some people can take the oil directly. They love the taste. Some people put it in a shot glass, put some water in there, pour the oil on top. This is beautiful golden color. Then you take the shot and it tastes like orange, lemon, mint water. We have a 1 second solution to one of the most dangerous health things in the world. One of the things that's affecting 97% of the people. They're not aware of it until we educate them. Once they are, we can help them with a 1 second shot. And I've become a missionary about this. Like, there will be 10 million bottles of balance oil shipped out from our warehouses to people who understand this one question. They understand it at such a core level that they're not going to go a day without taking a shot. They're going to recognize I need to do this for the rest of my life because 1, it's essential. 2, our bodies don't make it. So I need to supplement. And the right question is what I'm doing getting me into omega balance? I had a friend of mine named Mike. He was traveling from Tampa, Florida to Nashville. And he was surprising his wife with a birthday party. And on the way, he called me up in a panic. And he said, Art, I need you to overnight me some balance oil to my hotel in Nashville. I said, Mike, why would I do that? I'll just have it shipped to you. Just order it and have it shipped to you at your house when you get back from Nashville. He said, no, I got my doctor on the phone just about 20 minutes ago. He went through my results of the different tests that they did on him. His triglycerides were high or whatever all that stuff was. And the doctor told me this. The doctor said, hey, Mike, you need to start taking fish oil. Take 1,000 milliliters a day if you can. If your body can handle it, take 2,000. And Mike said, I needed to call you right away after that because, Art, you made me take the test. And you told me how important it is to take the balance oil to get into omega balance. You said the most critical question is what I'm doing getting me into omega balance, me, my wife, and my kids. And I didn't take it seriously enough. I took the oil once in a while. And you told me if a doctor says, or a health practitioner or a fitness coach or whoever says, take this many milliliters of fish oil, take this many DHAs or EPAs, they're asking the wrong question. They're operating under old science. Current science, modern science, the correct science. There's no consensus in science, but this is about as correct as you can get with 1 million tests. Are you kidding me? The second largest study on omegas is 30,000 people. We have a 1.1 million tests to date. We are the market leader. There's nobody in the world that knows omegas better than ZInzino, better than our scientists, better than our partners. So he called me right away and he knew I need to get back on the oil. Since that day, it's been, I think, 18 months. He hasn't missed an autoship. He's increased his autoship for his entire family. You see, if we can get people to understand that question, even if they don't join in that moment or they're not diligent in taking their oils, at some point they're going to have something happen in their life. And because you took the time to explain this one critical question, they're going to come back to you. And hopefully you're following up with them. So if I had a magic wand, Carla, if I had a wish for the holiday season, I would wish that everybody in the world understood this question. Because if they did, and then a large percentage of them acted on it, we would literally move the dial on public health. That's how convicted I am about this. That's how missionary based I am about this. And in order to do that, we have to build a large organization. We have to build a large team. So here's what we do. We tell a story. Tell your story. Tell the story, educate. Tell the story of the omega-3 to the omega-6. Make it simple. Educate in a friendly way. Get to the point. Then if they have questions, because you can say, hey, Carla, what would you like to know first? What would you like to know next? When they have questions, point them to third-party tools. If you hadn't seen the talk that I did at the annual event, go watch that, right? It's a full masterclass on how to use third-party tools. So if somebody says, oh, well, Art, how many DHAs are there in the balance oil premium? And I can say, oh, you know what, Carla, there are 711 milligrams of DHA in there. The moment I say that, I'm losing the battle and I'm losing the war, because that person who I'm talking to, should they decide to become a partner, they're going to be asking themselves, I'm going to have to memorize how many DHAs, EPAs, and all that in every single one of the products. I'm going to have to learn fancy presentations. If my presentation was cumbersome and long, I might get them to join as a customer. But if they're deciding to be a partner, they're going to say, number one, can I do what Art just did with me? Number two, do I have the time to do what he did? And number three, am I willing to do what he did with other people who I know? So instead of telling the answer, if I've memorized it, I'm going to say, Carla, that's a great question. Let's take a look at the bottle. And right here it says DHA 711 milligrams. Even if you know the answer, point to something that tells the facts. Point to the product fact sheet. Point to the product label. Point to the facts that are printed on the back of the Ascent. Read those. Point them to a balanced concept video. Point them to a Zoom presentation with your upline. Point them to something that's not you. And if you do that, and you're doing the third-party tools, you're using third-party tools as fact telling, your organization is going to duplicate in depth faster. Number three, we're here to offer people a choice, right? That's it. We're not here to convince them, coerce them against their will. If they're convinced against their will, they're not going to take the shot every day anyway. If they're convinced against their will that they need to start making a break to zero income, they're not going to go and put in the activity anyway. There's no point in signing them up as a partner if they internally don't want to go be and do the business. So we educate by telling stories. We present facts using third-party tools. We offer people a choice. And if somebody says, hey, stop selling me, you're selling me too hard, then number one, take notice, you're selling too hard. And number two, just say, hey, Carla, no. I'm just educating to give you a choice. It's up to you what you decide to do, right? That takes the pressure off. And then number three, whatever they decide to do, follow up, keep following up. If they decide to become a customer, keep following up, make sure that they're having a good result, make sure they're taking the product every day, make sure they understand that for, how the offer works. For $185, you can get a test. But if you decide to get the product every single month, then you get the test for under $100, plus they include a free bottle. Month 2, month 3, month 4 of auto ship, subscribe and save, you save 40%. In the 5th month, the company will send you a second test completely free, right? It's the best value proposition for health in the entire world. What we have here, 2 tests and a bottle for under $100 or around $100, depending on which oil you get. That's incredible just for getting on a subscription. But follow up. Make sure that you help them read their test. Make sure that you're reminding them to take the right amount of oil based on their weight every day. Make sure that they're going to get their second test. Make sure you read through that with them. The people who take both tests that are on the oil, that create that habit of taking the oil, there's a much higher likelihood that they're going to continue to take it for the next 6 months and the next 6 years, and maybe for the next 60 years, right? So follow up. And if they don't decide to do the products, or they decide not to join, follow up anyway. And they'll let you follow up as long as when you approach them, you did it in a nice, friendly, non-pressuring way, right? So tell the story, educate. Use third-party tools to tell the facts. Offer people a choice. That's all you're doing. And then follow up with them, regardless of what they do. And we've heard the mission, right? Let's get 1 million people as customers. Let's get 1 million people into balance. Then after that, let's get 2 million, and then 5 million, then 10 million. I was doing a call with an amazing organization, Sven and Audrey Goebel, this week, and they were sharing an interesting story. They said, hey, for their organization, and they've got amazing leaders in there, it took them 12 months to get to their first 10,000 customers. It then took 6 months to go from 10,000 to 20,000 customers, half the amount of time to go to 20. And then it took only 2 months, a third of the time, to get to 30,000 customers. 10,000 customers took a year. 20,000 customers, it took 6 more months. 30,000 customers, it only took 2 months after that. You see, what we do scales in an amazing way. And when we get to 10 million people getting a bottle a month, that's $400 million in sales a month. $400 million a month in sales by helping 10 million people take control of their health, taking care of the biggest, in my opinion, challenge that they have that they may not even know, which is too many inflammatory omega-6s compared to omega-3s in their bodies. 400 million a month in sales means there's 200 million a month in commissions paid to the missionaries who went out there and said, I'm going to go and be the person that brings this to my community. I'm going to be the person who brings this to the people who I know, like, and trust. I'm going to be the person that's going to not be quiet about this and is going to actively prospect, not passively prospect. I'm going to be that person that's the difference maker. And in that process, ZInzino is the kind of company that will pay me for every customer I personally create, and will pay me for every single customer that my organization creates, as long as those customers order. It's a completely incredible win-win-win concept. Netflix, Carla, doesn't pay you and me a penny. They don't even send us a gift card or a thank you card for recommending their shows to other people. They're a greedy corporation. There's no other way to put that. ZInzino is the exact opposite. They say, you help build this business, you help 10 million people get into balance, you do your part, and we'll pay you every single month. You're going to help break the zero for you and your family. So that's the mission. With 10 million people, Carla, in balance, we've measurably moved the dial on public health globally. When 50 million people are in balance, there's nothing you can stop. You just can't stop it, because people will know. We're going to take all that fire, all that inflammation, and start turning it into nice, calm, anti-inflammatory water, right? Look at that picture. So if you ask the wrong question, the answer doesn't matter, right? Keep that in mind. Help people shift. Number one, they should be taking omegas. If they're already taking omegas, they're probably asking the wrong questions. How many milliliters should I be taking? Nope, that question doesn't matter. Is it getting you into balance? And here's the critical question for 2024. How many times is the story of ZInzino and the balance concept and the opportunity being told by you in 2024? How many times is it going to be told by a third-party tool in 2024? How many times is it going to be told by someone on your team in 2024? And I can tell you, if you build an organization and the story of ZInzino and the balance concept is told 1 million times in 2024 by you, by a third-party tool, by someone on your team, and I know 1 million sounds crazy, but there are people who are going to build an organization where the story is told 1 million times. Don't worry about the output. The input is how many times is the story told. The story is good enough. The story is incredible. 97% of people need this. We're going to go help them. We're righting the wrong. There's a mistake they made, and we're here to correct it. And you can participate in the profits of that as we go do it. So how many times is the story going to be told? That's the message, Carla. It's a message of being on a mission. It's a message of knowing that there's something greater that we're trying to do. You've heard me say it before, purpose. You have to know your purpose. Why did you start in ZInzino, right? Why did you decide to be a partner? What was it that made you say, I want to be a partner? I want to go break that zero. I don't want to start financially from zero every month. I want to do the work right one time and then get paid again and again and again and again and again for a long time for the work that I did. Because there are going to be painful times in this journey, right? There are times when you have to go back and remind yourself why you got started. One of my favorite stories is a story by Viktor Frankl, right? In the book, The Man's Search for Meaning. It has even more meaning today than maybe 6 months ago. And the people that he says make it through tough times are the ones that have a purpose, a mission. People with purpose are the ones who accomplish things. People with purpose are the ones who withstand the challenges of life that come along the way. There will be challenges. Are you going to be the builder? Are you going to be that person in your community that they don't know this right now? But once they learn it, once they see the testimonials that happen in that community, more and more of them are going to get on board. You see that the challenge is get 5 or 10 of them to see what you see. The challenge is get 5 or 10 of them to have a story, a testimonial. Once 5 or 10 or 20 people in a certain specific community have it, it's going to spread. It's going to spread quickly. That's the power of word of mouth marketing. And you're going to benefit from that. And if you're saying, well, I want to be the builder. I want to be the leader. I want to be an ambassador in ZInzino, but I don't want the challenges. That's the wrong definition. How do we even know that you're a leader unless you overcome challenges? That's the definition of being a leader. So 2024 is going to be incredible. We have a mission that we need to accomplish. We need to talk to everybody with conviction. We need to be actively prospecting on the customer side and on the partner side. And we need to know that along the way, there will be challenges, and that's okay. I mean, there are some people, many people who say, I want to be the great leader, but I don't want the challenges. Impossible. The challenge is what polishes and creates the diamond that's inside of you. That's what happens. That's what polishes the diamond. The diamonds you see on the stage in 2024, and the directors and the ambassadors and the presidents, they went through the challenges, and in the process that polished them into the diamonds that they are. And in that process, they helped 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people get into balance or more. And the feeling of that, Carla, yeah, the money's great. Having a break to zero check is amazing. Not having to start from zero every month is incredible. Carla, you've broken the zero for who knows how long, over a decade. But I know from Carla that if I were to ask her what's more meaningful, the check, which is very important, don't get me wrong, or the stories that she's heard from people who get into balance, I don't even have to ask for that question. I know the answer. So Carla, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I'm fired up about 2024. I'm fired up about all of you, the work that you've put in this year for the growth that we've seen and the lives that we've impacted. We've had incredible growth for many years now, but we haven't scratched the scratch. Like, if we're going to get to 100 million people in balance, we got to get to work. And Carla, you were down in the Rio Grande Valley with me. Dr. Paul Clayton was down there. There's a meeting inside your organization that's on the border of Texas and Mexico. And there was a lady there who was losing her eyesight. And her test, her balance test result was over 100 to 1. For every 1 anti-inflammatory omega-3, she had 100 inflammatory omega-6s. And her family and friends were there, and they looked at Dr. Paul Clayton and they said, Dr. Paul, can you help her? And I'll never forget these words. Dr. Paul said, we got to her too late. We got to her too late. I can't reverse this. We can get her into balance over the next 6, 9, 12 months and maybe slow down what's happening. But we got to her too late. And those words, that sentence, Carla, lingered with me ever since that day. Yes, we're going to go slow to go fast. We're going to build a big business in the right way. But there is an urgency. And the urgency is that there are people out there that have too many omega-6 inflammatories in their body, and they're suffering the consequences. And we can't afford to get to them too late. So get on that mission. Let's be part of this together. Let's keep that in mind during the holiday season, the gift that we have to give, not just during the holidays, but through all of 2024 and beyond. Carla, thanks for having me on here. Merry Christmas to you. And I'll turn it over.
Well, Art, as usual, it has been impactful. And actually, I get teary-eyed still thinking of when Dr. Paul said that, because it really put that in you, and we need to be more actively prospecting, actively recruiting, and people need to know. And I think, Big Al said it too, it's our intention. So we're not out there to sell things, but people do want to buy. It's not that they like to be sold to, but people love to.
Yes. People love to buy. Look at the malls. Look at the sales. People love to buy stuff. They don't like to be hard sold, but when they're educated and they recognize, they love to buy. They love to buy. That's absolutely a great point, Carla.
And when you were talking about what we really have, and you had that match there, and you were talking about the firefighters, I just think about that. If we had pyromaniacs setting up all these fires, and firefighters can only battle 3 at a time, at the max, and you have all these, we have 25 of them, it's just, it's a losing battle. So we need to get the word out and tell people, hey, we just need to put all these firefighters in there to put out the fire. Let's get out the fire so we can help people before it's too late. That's the mission. And
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Art. We haven't even got started anywhere yet. And we'll see such a growth, not just in North America, but the entire family of ZInzino.
We are, and it's amazing to see what's happening in Europe. The DACH region, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, big hats off to them. I mean, they're just showing what's possible. I was in Turkey for 2 weeks, and a bottle of balance oil, Carla, in Turkey, that's 10% of the average person's income. They make $400 a month. Their inflation rate is over 40% right now. It's crazy, and yet it's a fast growing market. Mexico opened. Oh my gosh, Mexico is so exciting. We have so many stories of what's happening. I was looking at the numbers this morning, Carla. This is December, typically not the biggest month in any direct selling company's history. But in America, this month, it looks like we're going to recruit more partners than we've ever recruited in any single month. So there are missionaries right now that are saying, hey, we're going to go have parties. We're going to prick people's fingers because I need to get into my community and I need to wake them up to this. And I feel that that's happening. So congratulations to all of you all over the world. But to see that the potential's there, that this month we actually end up sponsoring more partners than we've ever done in a single month in the December month is absolutely amazing. Just amazing. Congratulations.
And the future is so bright. There's so much more to come. And you said, 500, 600 partners a month. We're ready for that. And people need it. We just need to get out there and keep spreading the news and talking to people and not keeping it in and being passive about it. We need to be out there actively talking and letting people know. Because I think there's people at night praying, is there something that can help me? And we've got the answer. We just can't hold it back and keep it our secret.
Yeah, we've got to be loud. There are 300+ million people in the US, almost 40 million people in Canada, Mexico. We can do 1,000 partners a month, like just 10x from where we are, or 8x, whatever that may look like. 1,000 a month is very doable for our market. And then one day we will be at 2,000 a month. You just see, it'll happen. And it's going to be amazing.
So everyone, on this holiday season, when you're out with those families, let's not be pushy about things, but we need to educate people so they can make an educated decision. And
Yes.
it's
give them a choice.
Give
them a choice.
I love it.
Test, don't guess. Let them take the test. This is an amazing gift right here. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Art, for being on and for such a simple explanation of this. And let's use it for everybody. I'm going to unmute people so that everyone
only takes 3 minutes, that entire presentation. I know we took longer because we're explaining it, but it really is 3 minutes or less. All right. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas to you, Art.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
God bless.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Art.
Merry Christmas, ZInzino family.